How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Timeless Movie Podcast, episode number 81. My name is Victor Vasquez. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode where we break down a new movie, explain our thoughts, what we were kind of thinking about as we were watching it, pros and cons, and then deciding whether it is timeless. Can I see myself rewatching this new movie and adding it to a rotation every single year or every other year, however your timeless rotation really works? If you guys have not had a chance to check out last episode number 80, go ahead and check it out. I put a link up here on top of the video. It was such a fun discussion. I had my brother Omar Vasquez join me to talk about Deadpool and Wolverine. Yes, the video is long, it's about 55 minutes, but I think it's worth it just talking all about how great, and or at least for us, in our opinion, how great and how much fun we had watching the new Marvel film. So, again, if you have a chance, feel free to check out last episode. On this week's episode, though, we're going to be talking about M. Night Shyamalan's newest film, Trap. This one stars Josh Hartnett, and it's a super interesting concept. His movies are always like that, right? There's always a hook that gets you in one of these M. Night Shyamalan movies, whether it's, Signs, The Village, even The Happening, if you want to call one of those out. There's a lot of different ones, but every single M. Night Shyamalan film has a hook that gets you interested and intrigued. And this one really got me. So let's go ahead and dive in. I don't want to kind of cover too much of those details. I really want to explain what my overall thoughts were. So let's just jump into what my immediate thoughts were after watching Trap. So after I got to check it out, I thought that the movie overall was good. It had its okay moments, it had its good moments, but overall, again, it was just a kind of an experience where I had a couple of highs, and there was definitely some lows where I just kind of felt like there was a lot of loss of steam and energy throughout the movie. What this basic movie is about is having a serial killer, in this kind of a world that they've created. This serial killer is out on the loose. They're trying to catch this individual, and they don't know what he looks like. They don't know what his body type might be, but they know that he's going to be at a specific concert for a star called Lady Raven, and they know that he's going to be there. So they end up setting a trap. Using the title of the movie, trapping him in this concert. They have security all around. The serial killer doesn't know what that he's about to be cornered in every single exit. And so again, that's kind of like the general premise of the movie. And so you start off by following the character of Cooper, who is played by Josh Hartnett. He's taking his daughter Riley to this concert because Riley loves Lady Raven. And so you kind of get to see Josh Hartnett as Cooper, who is trying to be a good dad, trying to show that, like, hey, look, because my daughter worked really hard, she's going to get this awesome prize to go to see her favorite artist. And then you see them kind of walk around, you see them in that environment of the concert, and then you start understanding little by little that Cooper is actually the serial killer. And so right there, that's the hook. And it immediately gets me intrigued, right? Because that is something that's so different from other types of thriller movies, right? Where you're not really following the serial killer, you're not following the bad person. In this one, you are. And so Josh Hartnett, you're just seeing his mind work. He's like very OCD. He's very methodical about what he's trying to do. And so throughout the movie, when you're following Cooper, you're just trying to see, okay, where can I escape the venue? You have SWAT teams all around. You have police at every single exit. Everybody's getting checked. Every male really is getting checked in this concert. And so he is just trying to understand and kind of think through, how am I going to get myself out of this situation? And for the majority of this film, it really just takes place in a concert. And I thought that was really one of the biggest highlights, is just following Josh Hartnett's character of Cooper around the concert and just figuring out ways to cause distractions, get more information from the FBI and SWAT teams that are there. All of that stuff, again, are the highs of this movie. And really the biggest highlight to me is Josh Hartnett. His performance, his character, all that is interesting. Now, where the film kind of loses a little bit of steam is throughout the kind of like the end of the second act, kind of going into the third act, you start getting more involvement from Lady Raven, who is like the pop star in this entire scenario. And what makes it kind of tough is that Lady Raven, she becomes a bigger part of the story, and almost we start following her aspect of it and her perspective of being face to face with the serial killer of Cooper. And so it was a cool idea, but I kind of wish maybe there was a little bit more focus on just showing Cooper the entire time rather than splitting time between Lady Raven, who is played by Salika Night Shyamalan, one of the daughters of M Night Shyamalan. So it ends up being kind of split where you see most of the time it's spent with Cooper in the first two acts. Then it kind of cuts to Lady Raven, and she's kind of the one that we're following throughout the film. So I feel like the movie loses a little bit of steam there. And again, I kind of wish it would just stuck with Cooper all the way through until, whatever his outcome was. I'm not going to spoil that too much. Definitely want you guys to at least experience that. But I would have loved to see him from beginning to end, just the entire way through, and see what his outcome would be. Another thing I want to call out is that this movie was actually pretty funny. I don't know if it was intentional by M. Night Shyamalan and the writers to kind of, make this movie funny, but like the way that some shots and scenes were directed, which just had me laughing. But I noticed that I was the only person laughing in the theater. So again, it's probably just my messed up mind that I was laughing. But there's just certain shots, like the way that they were directed, or the line delivery by Cooper and all these different characters. It just made me laugh. But again, I don't know if that was the intention. But I definitely wanted to call that out there. Overall, it was a okay to good movie in the theater. Again, the concept is really what's going to get you to stick through this movie. But it might not deliver to what you're expecting. Once the credits roll in this case. Okay, now that I kind of covered a lot of my overall thoughts, let's jump into some of my pros and cons to kind of give you a little bit more clarity. Again, little spoiler warnings just in case you don't want to be told about specific aspects of the film. All right, jumping right in. First pro is actually going to be the camera shots that were used within the film. I thought the camera shots were done in an excellent way. There's a lot of shots that are done like behind Cooper. And so, a lot of the shots are kind of just following him, and you're not seeing his face. Rather, you're seeing behind his back, behind his shoulder. And what you're doing is you're getting these swooping shots where you get the perspective of what is Cooper looking for. He's looking for a way out. He's looking for an escape. And so you get to see from his entire perspective what is around him. How many police officers? Where's Riley? Is she paying attention to how I'm acting or what I'm doing? All this different stuff. And so I think the camera shots and how they were kind of framing a lot of the different types of shots in the film were done really well, at least for me. I enjoyed those. Couple other things that I also want to call out is there was a lot of different straight camera shots. Like the character that was in frame was right in the middle of the shot, and it looked like they were basically looking directly at the audience to kind of get more of an understanding or get more of what the intent was of that scene. But I thought it worked really well, especially when it would look at Cooper. Josh Hartnett had some great facial expressions. And so you could just kind of see that some things made him tick. And as he was looking at the audience, he was just trying to play off and lie. And he was a psychopath. And I enjoyed those types of shots. But again, it helped add more tension to those scenes. And it just added to the craziness that was in the mind and in the way that Cooper would look at the camera. Again, just all these different stuff that added so much to his character and really added to the experience for me. Second pro that I have is the way that they were able to nail the vibe and the setting of the concert. Like I stated in the overall thoughts, the entire, or at least I would say 85% of the movie takes place at a concert. And it's for Lady Raven. She is the pop star. She's singing her songs. But throughout the first two acts, they nail the concert feeling. They nail how it is to kind of walk around before the concert starts, seeing the opening act. You also see a bunch of different types of vendors. You see the characters walking around. You see Cooper run into different types of characters as well, like a specific character named Jamie. You get to see like all these different types of interactions. His again thought process about where the exits are, how he can try to escape within backstage. All this different stuff about the concert itself. I thought they filmed that really, really well. And it actually, again, it made you feel like the audience is a part of this trap sequence, right? We're a part of this because it feels like we're in the concert the entire time. The way that the lights would be reflected of, depending on where Cooper and Riley were sitting. All this different stuff, the way that they just made that arena feel like a realistic concert. I thought, again, that just added so much more to this film that just made it feel more grounded. And I really appreciated that. Even when they went backstage too, again, you got to see a little bit of like these glimpses of how Lady Raven prepares, what she's gonna do to kind of get ready and switch up, between songs. And so again, it just that concert feel was probably one of the biggest highlights for me in regards to making this movie just much more enjoyable. Okay, moving over to some cons. I only have two, but again, I feel like these two kind of really relate to the feeling of just kind of losing energy within the film. First con I gotta have to call out, and this is really something that's big in a lot of horror and a lot of thriller movies, is just a lot of situations that are very in favor of the villain in this film. So here, the villain and the antagonist is Cooper, played by Josh Hartnett, and there are a couple of scenes where things just work out way too well, right? And that's when I start questioning that, like, okay, I really want this film to be grounded, I want it to be realistic, but when there's situations where it's just like, okay, hold on, how did you get out of this? That's just way too easy. There was times where, in a certain part of the film, he is driving a limousine and taking Lady Raven to a specific spot. He is dressed up as a SWAT member, and he ends up getting surrounded by other SWAT members, and they tell him to get out of the car. Somehow he is able to change clothes and then get out into the crowd in a hoodie, and the crowd doesn't notice that he got out of the car. And it was just very interesting and very weird decision of how they were able to pull that off and not have anybody in the crowd notice that yeah, this is the guy that was just driving Lady Raven around, and all of a sudden he's not wearing the SWAT stuff anymore. Like, what's going on? So there's a lot of very convenient things that happen for Cooper that I just felt like, it's too easy of a way out for his character. He needs to struggle a little bit more. Even the way that he was able to obtain a SWAT member's uniform, like, when did he knock that person out? Who did he get? Where did he leave the body? How come they never brought that up? It's like, it's just things like that that I wish were a little bit more explained or flushed out, so that it wouldn't make me as an audience member feel like, okay, that's just an easy way out. You just kind of very quickly got him to escape, but didn't explain how he was able to kind of just find a way to not have anybody notice him. Second con, and this is kind of the bigger one, is at the point where Lady Raven kind of gets involved in this story. Now, nothing against Lady Raven, the character as a whole, or Salika Knight Shyamalan. Again, nothing in regards to her performance. I just feel like we're already getting so used to following Cooper. We're following the villain, and we want to see, really, again, we're almost, it's very tough. You're not rooting for him because he's the bad guy, but you also really want to see, can he escape? And that all is working very well in the first two acts. It's until the third act where Lady Raven gets involved, and now she becomes, in a way, trapped in this film, because now Cooper has let Lady Raven know that he's a serial killer and he's going to use her as a hostage. And now it kind of flips. Now Cooper really does become the villain, but we're not focusing on him anymore. We're focusing on Lady Raven and how she's going to try to escape. She's going to try to get out. And I feel like that kind of took a lot of the energy and the momentum that we were kind of building up to, and it kind of just flips it on its head. Maybe it worked for some. For me, it really didn't. I would have preferred to just follow Cooper the entire way around. Just follow him until he finally gets caught. And then that way it just makes it like a full complete story of how Cooper did all he could, but he eventually maybe got caught at the end. Again, I just feel like that portion of the third act, when Lady Raven gets involved and she becomes the focus, it takes a lot of the energy away, and it just kind of messes a little bit with the flow, at least for me. And I just couldn't get back into the film after that. All right. Well, that's all the kind of cons and negative stuff that I had to say. I do want to wrap this up by kind of bringing up some of the good stuff that I still enjoyed. Favorite performance, you've already heard me call this out. It's going to be pretty obvious, but to me, Josh Hartnett kills it in this role. It is an easy choice. The way that his facial expressions alone can just tell you like that, how psychotic he is, the things that he's thinking about, the lies that he comes up with on the spot. It's just unbelievable the way that he's just able to kind of just move his eyebrows or move his lips and quiver like his lips in a way that like just kind of makes you think like he's really thinking, he's really like plotting how he's trying to escape the situation. His performance again throughout the film was awesome. Again, there's times where he flips back and forth, pretends to be a nice dad, and then you really see the serial killer in him in the third act. So really cool stuff. Josh Hartnett gets my favorite performance of Trap. If I have to had a favorite moment, it's going to include Cooper, but it also includes another character. In the third act, we get to see not only do we have the interaction between Cooper and his daughter Riley, but we also get to introduce his wife Rachel, who is played by Allison Pill, and they have such a great conversation at the end of the film where we end up kind of finding out a little bit more details as to how this trap was provided and set up. And then you see Cooper basically at a point where he has no other choice but to get rid of his wife because now his wife knows about his true intentions and who he really is, and as this very troubled and psychotic person. And they just have a great conversation at the dining room table. They're eating pie, and just unbelievable conversation that these two have, and this the intensity. And you could see that in Rachel's eyes, she is in tears because she's scared at what Cooper can do. But unbelievable, this back and forth between the two. That was really my favorite moment of the entire scene. And then if I had like a favorite shot or a favorite, still of the film that could look like a poster, it's probably anytime we're looking at Cooper directly in his face. There's no dialogue, there's nothing going on. It's just staring into his face after he realizes that he is trapped at the concert. And it's basically an entire setup for him. And I really enjoyed the faces that he was making, kind of like how I described in my favorite performance part of it. His facial expressions are just very well done. He is just doing a great job to, again, not saying anything, not showing that he's scared or that he's worried, but his face says it all. His eyeballs are moving back and forth, left and right, and he's just trying to find a way to escape and not get caught. And again, there's a specific shot where like the lights of the concert are kind of reflecting off of his face, and he's again, everybody around him is enjoying it, and he's the only one that's kind of just looking around and saying, "I got to get out of here." Love that part of it. So that probably be my favorite shot of the entire movie. All right. Well, again, those are my overall thoughts, guys. Again, hopefully that kind of gave you a good sense as to what I thought about the movie. If I had to decide whether I would recommend it to kind of watch it in theaters or maybe stick to streaming, I actually would decide that this one's okay. You don't have to watch it in theaters. I don't think the theater experience will add too much to it. This one's a great movie to kind of watch at home. A nice thriller. Again, not too scary, but also kind of gives you the insight of what these psychopath or the serial killer is thinking as you're following them along. So again, still a recommend if you're into those types of movies, like those mystery thriller movies. But again, more of a film that you can wait for streaming until it's available. You do not have to go to the theaters and check this one out immediately. All right. Well, now that we got that all out of the way, I think it is time to decide whether Trap is a timeless movie. As of today, Trap is not going to be timeless for me, as a lot of the different things that I've kind of called out about it. Again, there's a lot of cool stuff in regards to following the villain, following the antagonist, just kind of doing something a little bit different than other films. But I think there's a lot of momentum that's lost when we start including a different character and have them really be the focus of the film. That, again, took a little bit away from me. Again, I'm not going to say that it just completely made the film terrible. Again, it did not. But it did take, again, a lot of the specific energy and the entire kind of feeling that I was getting of like, well, how is he going to escape? And then once it kind of flips to Lady Raven, I was like, oh, okay, well, that's cool, but I really wish it would have just been an entire story focused on Cooper and nobody else. And so, again, very okay to good movie. I still enjoyed myself, but I will not be adding this to a timeless rotation. More importantly, though, what do you guys think about Trap? Have you seen the new M. Night Shyamalan movie? If you have, let me know down below. I really want to know your thoughts. Did you enjoy Trap? Did you like Josh Hartnett's performance? Did you enjoy the switch up in the third act where you include Lady Raven's character? Definitely want to know more so that we can interact around this movie. And also, let me know if it's timeless. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for sticking all the way through and listening. My name is Victor Vasquez. This has been episode number 81 of the Timeless Movie Podcast. Make sure to check out next week's episode as we're going to be covering the new film, Alien Romulus. Super excited for this one. It looks really awesome. Can't wait. So, guys, make sure to check it out. I will be here on next week's episode to talk about that. And let's go ahead and discuss, is that movie going to be timeless? All right, everybody. Thank you and have a great rest of your week.